Welcome to Everyday Linux User. In today's video we are looking at Sway. Now Sway is a tiling window manager and it's a lot like Hyperland. It's based on i3 and this is the setup I have at this moment in time. We've got a way bar at the top and I'm using this menu here. This is Rofi and this enables me to run an application. So say I want to run LibreOffice Writer, I can just double click that and LibreOffice Writer will load up and it takes up the full screen. But if I want to run another application, for instance I want to run Dolphin, and you can see it tiles alongside. And so in this video I'm going to show you a few things about Sway, how to navigate the system, things you can do. So for instance you can see I've got two windows here. If I want to go from one to the other, I can press the Windows key and the arrow and it switches between the windows. So I can type hello here and then I can switch to the other window like that. I can close a window, Control Shift Q like that, and that gives me one window here. And if I want to run it again, I can do that. I can shift, if I want more space, I can put this onto another workspace. If I want Dolphin on another workspace, I can press the Windows key, the Shift, and for instance number 3. And now we've got LibreOffice on number 2, and if I go up to here number 3, you can see I've got Dolphin. Now you see I've got this transparent effect going on, and I've set up some keys, Win Alt and F6, so I can make it more transparent and I can make it less transparent. So more transparent, and I can make it less transparent. Now I find transparency is a good idea when you first start. You think it's going to be great, but then when you start using the system you realize it's not actually that great an idea. So I'm going to close that and I'm going to go over here. If I want to open a terminal, I can press Windows and Enter like that, and I've got some shortcut keys set up, so I can press Win Alt and C, and that brings up Chrome like that, and you can see they all tile alongside each other. Now by default Sway, when you first get it with Manjaro, looks actually like this and not like the way I've got it set up. So this is the default Sway, and I'm going to go into the default config and you can see the menu is actually called W menu run. So if I press the Windows menu, you actually get this is the default menu. So that's why I install Rofi, because I prefer Rofi as a menu to this one here. If I search for Chrome, for instance, it doesn't work, but if I search Google, it shows you the application there, and I can run that and it should load up, which it does. It still works the same way with the same function keys, etc. The terminal emulator is something called Foot. So if I press one, it's a different terminal emulator. It's not Alacrity. I prefer Alacrity. And you'll see here, if I actually run Dolphin and I go into shared data, I get this poll kit error. And these are the things I've improved with my config. So to improve the config, what you're going to do, first of all, you're going to install some packages, and the packages you're going to install are Alacrity, that's your terminal emulator, and you can install Rofi. Now I already have these installed, and you can see it's saying reinstalling. I don't actually want to do that, I've already got installed, but that's what you'll need to do. Then you need to go to your home folder and you need to cd into .config. It should already be there. If it isn't, you need to do make.config instead. And if you're in the .config folder, you can go into the Sway folder. If there isn't a Sway folder, you have to create it. And then what you want to do is sudo copy etc sway config dot like that. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to, well, actually I can do that because I've actually renamed what I want to call Gary config. And then what you want to do is ls-al, and you can see config is owned by root, so we want to do sudo change own Gary config like that. If we search for you can see there's one there called lxqt policy kit, so you would type sudo pacman -s lxqt policy kit, and that's important, and I'll show you why. So with all those installed, we can see the config there. I'm going to remove that config, and I'm going to move Gary config to config, and we're going to do nano config. And all you need to do is you set your terminal to Alacrity, you set your menu to Rofi, and you can set your own wallpaper here, and then down here you add in the exector lxqt-policy kit-agent. You might need to log out and log back in for this to work, by the way. I found that just redoing the config doesn't necessarily work, so Windows and D key, you can see you get the Rofi, you can see we've got the way bar up here, and you can see if you can use our shortcut keys, and if I go into here, it's not going to do the policy kit thing until I log back out and log back in again. So here we are, I'm logged back in again. So if I press the Windows and D key and we want to load up Dolphin, and if I click on this one for instance, you can see it's asking for a password, and I can now access my network drives. So that's why you need the policy kit. So this is the default config file, and I've changed a couple of things. So you can see here I've basically said for all Windows set the opacity to 0.95. So if I open up another terminal here, you can see it's see-through. If I want that to be solid, I can do that. So in Nano it's control load save, and to reload the config it's the Windows key shift and C. Now it's not going to change that window because it's already created, so we'll close that one, but what we'll do is we'll open another one, and you can see it's completely solid. But I've got this thing here where I can make it more or less opaque or less transparent. So let's go down a bit further. So the mod key is mod 4, which is actually your Windows key, but you can change it to the Alt key, which is mod 1. I've got my preferred terminal emulator, so I'm using Alacrity over here on the right, but you can set that to be any terminal emulator you want. The menu system, I'm using Rofi, and Rofi is this thing here, so you can use that. You can obviously use anyone that you like as well. There's default wallpaper. I've basically do output asterisk BG, which is the background program, and then the path to the image you want to use. And if you wanted to take up the whole screen, you use fill. If we go down here, there's some more example configuration if you want power settings and stuff like that. Input keyboard type, I've actually got US set. If you wanted UK, it would be GB, etc. So you can bind key symbols. So these are some basic ones. So you've seen that when I press Windows and return, it opens another terminal. If I want to kill a Windows Shift and Q, which I've been showing you previously, to launch a menu is Windows and D, and to reload the configuration file is Windows Shift and C. And if I want to exit Sway at all, it's Windows Shift and E like this, and it will bring up a warning here. I'm going to click close on that because obviously I'm recording, I don't want to leave. So moving around the screen, if I want to focus left, it's the Windows and left key, or Windows right key to go right. So I'm in the left window here. If I go here, you can see the cursor moves it across. If I want to make it horizontal like that, I press the shift key and the arrow, so move it down, move it up again, can go up like that, so that now goes to the top. And you can see I can move my windows around the screen. I can switch to a different workspace, so you can see I'm on workspace 2, but if I want to go and see my OBS, I can go press the Windows and the 1 key, and it moves me over there, and you can see that's recording there. We'll go back to number 2. If I want to move the contents to another workspace, we've seen that in action. So if I go Windows left here and then Windows Shift and 4, that's now on a different workspace altogether. You can use the mouse key to drag things around as well if you want to do it that way. If I want an application to go full screen, it's the Mod and F key, like that. And I can press the same again to get it out of there. I can make my window float, Mod Shift and Space, like that. So resizing, you have to Mod and R, so that's Windows key and R, and then I can use the arrow keys to make it larger or smaller. And if you've got horizontal windows going down the way, then you can move them up and down that way. If I want to exit the resize mode, I just press return, and you can see when I do resize, it says resize at the top, and if I press return again, it will go away. There are some other keys we've got here. I've got the audio going up and down using the F6, F7, F8, F5. And you can see I've got the opacity changing with this Mod Alt F6 and F7. So if I go to the other window, you can see I can make it more or less transparent. I've added some application shortcuts, and so here we've got I've got Mod Alt and E, so Windows and Alt and the E key. That brings up Dolphin like that. And if I want to run on Chrome, it's C, like that. And Kdenlive is Mod Alt and K, and then we've got OBS as well on Mod Alt and O. When it comes to this bar at the top, we've got this thing called Way bar, which is this thing across the top, and I've added the LXQT policy kit. If we bring up Dolphin, and I'm going to put this on its own screen here, move over here, and we go for something like basic shared data. You need this to be able to give you the permissions, and this is the LXQT dialog, and you can see I can now get into other drives. So if you need the security pop-up to pop up, you need a poll kit of some kind, and I find the LXQT is the one that works the best and the most consistent with Manjaro and Sway that I've been using thus far. So that works, and I can go into this one here and this one here, and it now works. So you can see I've got this NM applet here, and this brings up this Wi-Fi icon here, and this enables me to my Wi-Fi connection. But every time I log in, it asks me for the Wi-Fi password, which is a little bit annoying, so that's something to consider. So let's run some applications, and I'll show you that things like LibreOffice work perfectly well, and there's no problem with that whatsoever. Things I have had problems with are OBS. When it comes to OBS, install the Flatpak version, otherwise it won't run, and even then it can be a little bit temperamental. Sometimes it won't load, and you have to restart your computer really, or try and kill some of the processes for OBS but sometimes it just won't run. But you can see I have got it running and it's working perfectly fine at the moment. The other one that doesn't really run very well is Kdenlive. Now this works, I've got this running in for Wayland in the KDE session. Again, I'm using the Flatpak version, but if I use it within Sway, it won't run. Hopefully somebody can tell me why. I'm just going to click continue there. You can see it loads up the splash screen okay. Oh, actually it's worked this time. So it can be a bit temperamental. Sometimes Kdenlive won't load up. Sometimes it will, and I find this is a Wayland issue that I have with Kdenlive and with OBS, but definitely run the Flatpak versions of both of these to get it running. So my plan is to use only Sway for the entire week, and I'll report back next week to show you any other pitfalls I find along the way. But definitely edit your config file. Is a bit more manual. It's not for the everyday Linux user who just wants to click buttons and load applications. There's a bit more faff into it than that, but it's a lot more customizable. So that is the end of the video. That's a quick look at Sway. I'm using Manjaro Linux for this. So Manjaro Sway, it's Wayland based. It can be a little bit temperamental running certain applications. Getting the policy kit thing in is important. Add that to your config file. But that's it. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Linux User.